Hey, it's Jeremy here. I want to be showing you how to create a eye-catching thumbnail for your YouTube videos or tutorials or whatever you're doing. I want to give you some good principles, and I've got a few examples here of how I create some of my recent thumbnails. So you can see here, I use some bold type. I use nice contrast of the colors, and for this one, it's an example of like a logo video, and you can see I've got the logo here on the right, very clear, very simple. And then another version here as well. So you can see this one pops a bit more, still got the bold type and got some more graphical elements here and even a texture which I put in the back like that. And you can see here it pops, it stands out, it looks intriguing and interesting, so people are going to click on it. Because if people don't click on your thumbnails, you're not going to get people watching your videos. So I'm going to show you how to quickly create this type of style. And first up, you always want to get good color palettes. So it's nice to have color palettes with high contrast. You don't always have to go bright colors, but use colors that relate with your branding. So usually I'll go onto Adobe Color, and you can see I've got some color palettes saved here. Plenty of palettes, which is looking really cool. I'm probably going to use this one here. It's got the blues and reds here. So I'll add that one. And I'll quickly jump in here. So I'll just have an artboard. The artboard should be 1920 by 1080p. So that's usually the typical, 1080p resolution, the standard size for YouTube thumbnails, which is really good. So make sure the size is that. And what I'm going to do is press M for the marquee tool. I'm just going to drag out a box, and I'm going to start to use these colors here that I've got. So I'm going to probably go for this, blue, or I can go, whatever, one of these colors. So I'm going to use this dark navy blue. I'm going to press Ctrl 2 to lock that layer. I'm only using one layer now. Usually I use different layers, but that's totally fine. You can use it all one layer. I'm going to press T for the type tool, and I'm just going to left click once, and I want to have a bold type. So at the moment I'm using BW Modelica. There's some free fonts like even a Bebas New would be alright. I usually use Ridley Grotesque as well, which is nice. So I want to make this white. Some of these fonts are not free, but Bebas is free. But if you have fonts, you can use that. But you want a sans serif font that really stands out in bold, or even a slab serif will work. So I'm going to go to type and go to change case and go uppercase. So it's good to have uppercase because it's really bold and it stands out. And I'm just going to make this smaller. So I'm going to press Control Shift and just the comma key and drop that down. Scale it, and it's not bold enough, so I'm going to go to my type styles at the top and actually make it black. I like the boldness. I'm going to just press enter, and once again I'm just going to scale it, so I can use the bounding box here, scale it up. I'm going to bump up the leading, and the key is you want to have the type on the left, so somewhere in the left corner or in the centered. You never want to have it on this side because you've got the timestamp from the thumbnails of YouTube. You usually have a timestamp here in the bottom corner, so you want to avoid that. And people read from left to right, so you don't want to have the type somewhere at random. You want to have it on the left side, top corner, or in the center, or even if you're having, maybe you have just like one word in the back, and then maybe you have like an element. So if I just copy this guy over, and you have it like this, so you have like the picture and then you have the text in the back. You could do it sort of like that. So I'm just going to bring this back up, scale it a bit more. Don't want to make it too big. So I can go and sometimes the words might be a little long, so you got to figure out, if you want to cut them up and if it's still going to be readable. So you can see I got that bold, and then usually I select some of the words that are not important. So if I go how to create YouTube thumbnails, you can see that these top words are not the most important in the hierarchy. So I'm going to select these, and then once again Control Shift and the comma key, and just scale those down, and this can be scaled down as well. And then you can see how the leading is messed up now, so I'll get this and press Alt Shift and my up arrow key, and it's a bit slow, so I'll hold Control as well. So on your Mac it will be Command and Option, and that should bump that up. So it shifts the baseline. So I'll just play with it just to make it even. Like that. Cool, so we have this. I'm gonna put it in the corner here. And now I'm just gonna reuse this picture. You can see it's got some blur in the back. That's because I didn't do a really good job. If you don't know how to cut these in Photoshop, what you can do is go to remove.bg. It's a website. It will automatically cut the background out from your image. So I'm just gonna drop this in here. I kind of like how that's looking. It's okay if I overlap the type there. So you can kind of see the style there, which is okay. And then what I'm gonna do is on this one, you can see I did like a nice stroke. So I'm literally, you just use the pen tool, press P for the pen tool, use a white stroke or even a colored one. So if I want to go the red and start following around my picture, you know, it doesn't have to be fully accurate. And I'll go through and create, and then I'll bump up the stroke like that. So for now, I'm just going to copy this. In Photoshop, you don't have to use a pen tool because it has an option just to add the stroke straight onto the outline of the image. But because we're in Illustrator, you're going to have to just use the pen tool and just go around it. So I'm going to roughly put it in place. That's kind of cool. So I can do the red. I can have the white there or the blue. So the red stands out, which is kind of cool. And the reason why we have these images in black and white, the photograph, is because we want other elements to stand out in the actual thumbnail, which is kind of cool. So what I'll do now, maybe I want to add like a question mark or exclamation mark to make it, you know, something that is like exciting. So I'll just create that, scale it up and make them white. I'll then go to object and expand them out, press OK, or you can go to type, create outlines. So now these are shapes. And then what I'll do, I'll make it a compound path. So object, compound path, make. And then what I'll do now is I'll go path, offset path. And then we can offset like that, press OK. And then now I can use, you know, the red color or the blue color, however you want to do it. The red looks nice, it stands out. I might shear it a bit. Just to create a graphical element. And then maybe I want to add some elements in the side here. So maybe I want to do like a pattern. So I'll use the pen tool and hold shift and just do a line. You can see I've got one here. I'm going to bump that up. I'm going to turn the fill off. Make sure the fill is off and it's on the stroke. And maybe I want to do the blues here. And I can go to my stroke panel. So if you go to Windows Stroke, you get this option here. And I'm going to go show, I'm going to click the hamburger menu, which is the 3 lines, press show options. And maybe I want to add some arrowheads. So I'll go here and I'll use one of these arrows. So maybe this one here, arrow 13. And I'm just going to drop actually I'm going to keep the scale at 100. And I'll drag this out. I'll select this anchor point and just drag this out. And then what I'll do is drag this down. I'm just now using the arrow keys and holding shift and moving it across. Just like that. So it adds more graphical elements to the thumbnail. And then once again, maybe this is too much white within the text. I can select the text that I want by pressing the T tool and just selecting with the mouse, clicking, dragging. And maybe I want to change the color to blue. So now, or if I want to highlight this word here because it stands out. But white usually is the color that stands out, it draws us in. So yeah, usually I can have it like that. That's looking pretty cool. You can always add other elements as well. You can always add more of these arrows here. Yeah, I can make it look cool. Yeah, play around. Think of what elements that are relevant to the content in your video that can help it stand out and help it be more clickable. And then once again, I might add a texture in there. So I'll go to just one of these texture packs that I have, and maybe I like this one, paint splatter. And this is just a TIFF file. So a TIFF file is a bitmap TIFF, and I can change the color of it and do all cool stuff with it. And then what I'll do, I'll select transparency, click multiply. As you can see now, it multiplies the color of the other colors, and it's multiplying the color in the background. And I'm gonna bring it to the back. So if you hold Control Shift and you press the left square bracket, it will bring it down. And then if you just hold Control right square bracket, it should bump it up like that. So we can have it in the background. I'll go to my transparency, so window transparency if you don't have it open, and I'll drop this down to 40%. Make sure the texture is selected, 40%. And now you can see you got a subtle texture in the background, so it looks kind of cool. So yeah, there's plenty of ways of doing thumbnails. This is just one way I use to make thumbnails that is eye-catching, it stands out, and it's gonna make people click on your thumbnails, whether it's a tutorial or just a video, or you're teaching, or just doing some fun stuff. I hope this tutorial was helpful to you guys. Let me know in the comments below if you want to watch other similar tutorials, and click subscribe, and that really helps me out. And I look forward to making more content every week.